There's a certain kind of fear that comes when something familiar gets twisted into something wrong. A face in a crowd that shouldn't be there, a sound in the middle of the night, that deep gut feeling that even when you think you're safe, you're being watched.
So tonight we're heading to California. We're going to explore 3 true stories. Stories about lingering shadows and unseen eyes. Tales that are a stark reminder that the most terrifying monsters, well, they're the ones that are actually real.
All right, picture this. You're 26, you're with your best friend, and you're at Coachella. It's supposed to be a dream come true, right? This massive, pulsing world of music and art and just carefree fun. It's a place to escape reality. But sometimes reality has a way of following you in.
So the first 2 days, they were absolutely perfect. They saw all their favorite artists, ate food that was way too expensive, and just got completely swept up in the magic of it all. For that third and final day, they decided to take Molly, thinking, let's make the last few moments unforgettable. And they were, just not in the way they'd hoped. At first, everything was exactly what she expected. The music sounded incredible, the lights were amazing. But then, as the high started to shift, this little feeling of unease just began to creep in. She started to notice something, or more accurately, someone.
This guy he stood out. He looked older, maybe 35, and he was wearing this plain black shirt and boots, while everyone else is in, bright festival gear. And he wasn't dancing, he was just standing there. The first time, she kind of brushed it off, but then she saw him again over by a drink stand, and then again in the crowd between stages. It was like every time she looked up, there he was. Not right next to her, but always, somehow, in her line of sight.
So, of course, she tells her friend Alyssa, but Alyssa just kind of laughs it off. It's probably just the Molly, she says. A bad trip, a hallucination, and that just made her feel even more alone, more like a target. That fun, warm feeling was totally gone, replaced by this cold dread, her heart racing, her jaw clenched tight. The man actually approached her at one point, trying to dance with her, super pushy and just weird. And when she turned to grab her friend, she realized Alyssa had wandered off. She managed to find Alyssa, and they ended up leaving the festival early. The bad high was just too much. Back at their rental, completely exhausted, she just crashed into bed. She fell into this weird, half-awake, half-asleep state, too tired to care about anything. She doesn't know what woke her. Maybe it was a sound, or maybe it was just a feeling. It was tall, perfectly still, and it was facing her. Her mind's racing, trying to make sense of it. At first, she thinks, oh, it's my friend. But no, it's too tall, too broad. And then, her eyes focus. Even in the dark, she knew. It was the man from the festival, the guy in the black shirt and the boots, standing just a few feet away from her bed. She screams, and Alyssa comes running in. The figure's gone. Her friend tries to calm her down, completely convinced it was just some vivid, drug-fueled nightmare. But the next morning, there was proof on the hardwood floor. A clear trail of muddy boot prints. They came from the front of the house, went all the way down the hall, and stopped, right where the man had been standing. What she saw wasn't a hallucination. Someone had been inside. That feeling of being watched, it can follow you anywhere. So, our next story takes us from that desert festival to a gorgeous beach house in San Diego. A guy was visiting his girlfriend Valentina and her family, and the house was this beautiful villa, literally right on the sand. A perfect summer getaway. But a perfect setting can hide a perfect predator. As the sun was starting to set, Valentina asked him to take some photos of her for her Instagram. So he did, snapping picture after picture of her on the crowded beach. It was only later, when he was scrolling back through the hundreds of photos, that he saw something deeply disturbing. In every single picture, the same guy was there. Just a figure in the background, but his eyes were always pointed right at them. When he looked up from his phone, the man was gone. Valentina just shrugged it off, but later that night, they were at a bonfire on the beach, and he saw him again. Just a dark figure, watching them from a distance. The next night, Valentina and her family went out to dinner, and they left him at the house alone to rest. He was woken up by this sound, an incessant tapping sound. It felt like one of those dreams where you hear something, Except he woke up all the way, and the tapping stopped. He turned to face the big window that looked out onto the beach. And there he was, the guy from the photos, and he waved at him, then ran up the exterior stairs. A second later, he heard the front door open. He was inside the house. Pure panic just takes over.
He throws his entire body against his bedroom door just as the handle starts jerking, violently. The intruder is trying to force his way in. He's fumbling for his phone, manages to call 911. But by the time the police got there, the man had just vanished.
When the family got back, they all searched the house, and that's when they found out what the intruder's real intentions were. He'd taken Valentina's clothing, and, hidden in the corner of her room, police found a tiny camera. This wasn't some random break-in. This guy had been watching them for a very, very long time.
You know, some stalkers follow you from a distance. Others, they want to get much, much closer. For our final story, we're in the quiet isolation of the Palm Springs desert. A couple rented a modern, secluded Airbnb because they wanted privacy, to relax. But out in the desert, quiet doesn't always mean you're alone.
Over the first couple of nights, it was just little things. A thump against the wall, a voice that seemed super far away. The kind of sounds a house makes. They just dismissed all of it. But on the third night, the motion lights in the backyard started turning on, one after another, tracing this clear path right around the house.
So the guy, he grabs a kitchen knife. What else are you going to do? And he goes outside to investigate. In the sand, near the side of the house, he finds them. Clear shoe prints. Definitely not from an animal. He followed them with his eyes. They led directly to a small storage shed in the backyard, and they stopped right at the door.
So just imagine that, standing there in the absolute crushing silence of the desert night. The only thing you can hear is your own heart pounding in your ears as you're just listening, trying to hear any sign of movement, any breathing from the other side of that door. And for a long moment, there was nothing.
And then, a voice, a man's voice, clear and calm, speaking from inside the shed. It wasn't angry, it wasn't threatening, it was just unnervingly polite. And that was followed by this quiet, creepy little laugh, like he found the whole thing really funny.
He sprints back inside, calls 911. When the police show up, the shed is empty, but they find water bottles and food wrappers, confirming somebody had been living in there. But the most terrifying discovery, that came later. Pushed behind the couch, inside the house, was a dirty baseball hat. A hat that did not belong to them.
The thing about all these stories, from the festival to the beach house to the desert, is that the shadows were never caught. The questions are never answered. And that fear, it just remains, a constant reminder of how thin that veil of safety really is. It's the not knowing that really gets to you. The terrifying realization of just how close someone was and what they might have done.
You see, that dirty hat wasn't just proof that an intruder had been in their space. For this couple, and for the others, it was proof that the barrier between inside and outside, between safe and unsafe, had already been totally broken. The stalker hadn't just been in the yard, or on the beach, or in the crowd. He had been in their home. Maybe watching them as they slept, long before they ever knew he was there.